Welcome back to your Max podcast now. Okay, get out your pencils and open up your calendars. Tuesday, October 4th is the day Apple is currently expected to hold its next big media event where it's believed it will unveil the next iteration of the iPhone and roll out its shiny new official CEO, Tim Cook. This will be his first big product introduction, so the public will get its first lengthy impression of him that may well set the tone for his new role. To pass the presentation on to anyone other than Cook would only serve to reinforce the misperception that legendary outgoing CEO Steve Jobs is Apple, and that it will be a different company without him. So, like his predecessor, Cook is expected to be the main presenter at all big Apple media events going forward. That means the pressure will be on Cook to turn in a good performance at the event, especially after what has been so far a very smooth leadership transition at Apple. What will be interesting to see, of course, is if Jobs himself will also make an appearance. And while putting Jobs on stage with Cook could diminish the new leader's first public effort, what better one more thing than Jobs himself making a cameo appearance? October 4th makes sense because it would continue the time-honored tradition of Apple Tuesdays. Tim Cook will likely be assisted by other key Apple executives who are all most likely taking public speaking and mentoring hints and tips from new Apple chairman Steve Jobs. Cook is known to be a quiet man off stage, so must be feeling some pressure as he faces his biggest public event yet as Apple's CEO. Of course, Cook is also known as someone who meets his challenges. Apple has released its first major update to Final Cut Pro 10 with new features it says professional customers have been asking for, along with a new trial version for users to try out for 30 days for free. Among the biggest new feature to be added is support for XML. This addition makes it possible to both import and export projects in the XML format, meaning users can take XML formatted projects from Final Cut Pro 7 and other nonlinear editing software and now work on them in Final Cut Pro 10. That addition addresses one of the potential sticking points for upgraders who are left unable to open old Final Cut Pro projects in the newer version of the software. Shortly after the release, Apple posted a frequently asked questions page noting that the XML feature would be coming back alongside a handful of other additions, such as support for events and projects through Xon, audio channeling, custom starting time codes, Line's full screen toggle, and GPU accelerated export instead of CPU accelerated export. On the back end of the software, Apple's also taken a step towards making Final Cut Pro more compatible with new gear from camera manufacturers in the form of a new software development kit. The SDK lets camera makers write plugins for their new cameras into Final Cut Pro 10, taking the onus off Apple to time major new Final Cut releases with new camera hardware. And Apple's publishing a guide called Final Cut Pro 10 for Final Cut Pro 7 editors, which has been designed to walk users of the older software through what's changed. That joins an updated version of the Final Cut Pro 10 frequently asked questions page, which went up in late June announcing future software updates that would bring the additional features. Apple also announced that it will be releasing another update that brings multicam editing and support for broadcast video output. However, that update isn't expected until next year. And in case you were comatose or visiting Liechtenstein during this summer, many professionals found the new Final Cut Pro 10 to be too much of a departure from the previous version, and chiding the company for not bringing along key features. Last spring, after the iPad 2 was announced, first-gen iPad owners were told they could return their old tablet to an Apple retail location. What made this announcement special was that the iPads that they received would be donated to low-income teachers working with the organization Teach for America, a program that takes some of the brightest college grads in the country, gives them a quick 5-week training course, and then sends them into the more impoverished districts across the country to be teachers. Why Teach for America? Well, besides the fact that it's a smart organization that has the potential to make a difference, Steve Jobs' wife, Laurene Powell, just happens to sit on the TFA board of directors, reports Fortune. Apple hasn't said how many first-gen iPads were actually collected during the initiative, but it was enough to make sure every one of the 8,000 plus TFA core members got their very own. Though it's a great start, one iPad per classroom seems a bit ineffective. However, one teacher from St. Louis found that her kids would get work done more efficiently if they knew they could play with the iPad when they finished. A pretty smart implementation of the device with just one per classroom, but hopefully they'll be adding the iPad 2 to their collections once the rumored iPad 3 makes its debut. Truth triumphs fiction! Come with me now, won't you, to the cesspool that is purportedly Montpellier, Vermont. Ben & Jerry's now has sweaty balls. Would you like a taste? Sweaty Balls ice cream is an homage to a 13-year-old Saturday Night Live skit featuring Alec Baldwin as bakery owner Pete Schweddy, whose unique holiday offerings included a delicacy called Sweaty Balls. The new flavor, which is being offered in a limited batch, consists of vanilla ice cream, a hint of rum, fudge-covered rum balls, and milk chocolate malt balls. It's being sold in Ben & Jerry's scoop shops and supermarkets. The SNL skit, which first aired December 12, 1998, starred Molly Shannon and Anna Gasteyer as hosts of Delicious Dish, a national public radio program interviewing Baldwin's Pete Schweddy character. The ice cream flavor aims to cash in on the nod and a wink premise of the skit and on the cachet of the show. Gasteyer, for one, has tried the new flavor and likes it. I guess you could say I'm nuts for Sweaty Balls. I don't eat a lot of ice cream anymore because now I'm a woman in her 40s, so I was just delighted to have the excuse. But a statement released by 1 Million Moms, a division of the Mississippi-based American Family Association, states that they see no humor in this. The vulgar new flavor has turned something as innocent as ice cream into something repulsive. Not exactly what you want a child asking for at the supermarket. Ironically, you wouldn't want them to ask, like for the American Family Association itself.
Hello, Denis Sellers here. Well, I was going to tell you today, talk to you about a nifty little item I have recently gotten. The joypad for iPad, the joystick for iPad from Logitech. It's a cool thing for retro gamers like me because it attaches to your iPad for just about any game that uses a D-pad or a joystick. It has an online one. For instance, Pac-Man, one of my favorite games from my youth, works with it. You simply attach the joystick via the suction cups, and you can play Pac-Man and games like this the way they were meant to be played with a joystick. I highly recommend the gadget. It's $20. You can get it from Logitech, and I really like it. I've never adjusted to playing games with by swiping on the iPad, and this returns arcade games to the state that they should be for people of my age, and that's to be played with the joystick. I said I was going to talk about that today, but instead I want to let you know that I'm sad. I used to have this really nice home office in which I worked writing great prose for Mac publications, but my office is no longer mine anymore. You see, my wife is having new flooring put in our house, which means that all the stuff, and you know what George Carlin had to say about that. If not, look it up. Had to go somewhere while the flooring was being put down. Guess where the stuff got stored? In my nice office. My nice office is now a storage room in which I sit here trying to work on my iMac surrounded by stuff from other rooms. You can see behind me rugs, boxes, brooms, things of this nature. Over to the side here, you can see chairs, trophies, all kinds of stuff that's been moved to this office from other places in the house. So just think of me this week and know that Denis no longer has a nice home office and won't, at least for a few more days. So think of me. If you think of other things, think about getting you a Logitech joystick for the iPad, because you'll really enjoy it. Also, I'm looking for a good joystick for my Mac to play games on it, since I do prefer joysticks rather than keyboard keys. So if you do have any suggestions on this, you can drop me a line at dennis.sellers@comcast.net. And if I can make it through all this junk in my home office, maybe I can read it. Anyway, that's all for this week. Until next time, take care and be good.
And so, once again, we come to another end of the week in the Magic Apple Kingdom, boys and girls. I know last week that I thanked Denis for the op-ed, but we had a little bit of a problem with the internet and getting stuff on time. So hopefully, I'm recording this the night before. Hopefully it all came through. And until that time, I'm going to get sweaty balls. So until next time, this is your host,
Developers,
reminding you to download, double-click, drop out.